Okay, continuing on where we left off with Atticus in his office. And he's got on his wall here this unsullied code of Alabama. And you notice his office is really plain. He's just got a little more than a hat rack, a spittoon, a checkerboard, and then this unsullied code of Alabama. And then we get this story about when he was a new lawyer, his first two clients, okay? Something happened with them that's going to show us something about Atticus, as well as some major themes that are going to be important later in the novel. So his first two clients were the last two persons hanged in the Maycomb County jail. Atticus had urged them to accept the state's generosity in allowing them to plead guilty to second-degree murder. And escape with their lives. But they were Haverfords in Maycomb County, a name synonymous with jackass. So, some people were accused of murder, and Atticus was trying to give them a deal and give them second-degree murder. So second-degree murder means kind of accidental, instead of first-degree murder, which means planned, like you planned it out to kill somebody. Well, these people, Atticus was trying to get them to say, look, okay, we're guilty. We did kill someone, but we didn't really mean to kill them. However, these people are really stupid. They're known by jackass, which means stupid people. Okay? So the Haverfords had dispatched Maycomb's leading blacksmith, and again, notice the comic understatement. Dispatched means killed, in this case. They had dispatched Maycomb's leading blacksmith in a misunderstanding arising from the alleged wrongful detention of a mare, which is a female horse. Were imprudent enough to do it in the presence of 3 witnesses and insisted that the son of a bitch had it coming to him was a good enough defense for anybody. So 3 people saw these guys kill someone, the blacksmith, because of something to do with a horse. And when they were told to give a defense, why did you do it? They said, the son of a bitch had it coming for him. And that's it. These are really ignorant, stupid, uneducated people. They persisted in pleading not guilty to first-degree murder. So there was nothing much Atticus could do for his clients except be present at their departure. Again, comic understatement, that means their death. They were hung, killed. Capital punishment. An occasion that was probably the beginning of my father's profound distaste for the practice of criminal law. So what do we learn here about Atticus? Well, we learn that he holds the law very strictly. Okay? Atticus is very strict to keep the law. Why? Well, he wants that pure, unsullied code. But we know from our genre that there's going to be a critique of the legal system. Gothic is always critiquing social institutions, the government, maybe the education, maybe the doctors, maybe could be politicians, whatever. Okay? But Atticus was so strict that these people had to die. He kept to the letter of the law. Okay? He did attend their hanging, but they're dead because he gave them a chance. He gave them a legal option, and they didn't take it. Okay? During his first 5 years in Maycomb, Atticus practiced economy more than anything. For several years thereafter, he invested his earnings in his brother's education. So he actually paid for his brother to go to medical school. John Hale Finch was 10 years younger than my father and chose to study medicine at a time when cotton was not worth growing. But after getting Uncle Jack started, Atticus derived a reasonable income from the law. He liked Maycomb. He was Maycomb County born and bred. He knew his people. They knew him. And because of Simon Finch's industry, Simon was related by blood or marriage to nearly every... Atticus, was related by blood or marriage to nearly every family in the town. So we also learned that Atticus is very generous. He pays for his brother's education to study medicine. Well, that's expensive. That takes a lot of years to become a doctor, right? So he was willing to save, pay for his brother to become a doctor. And he knows everybody in the town. He's comfortable in this town. And he's a lawyer, so he's upper class, right? So if we're putting on, say, the different lenses here, well, from the, let's say, the Marxist lens, well, Atticus is a little bit higher class than others, but everyone's poor because it's during the Great Depression, as we're going to see. Okay. Now, the next section is going to shift gears a bit. And now we're going to enter into a kind of a Gothic, Southern Gothic description of Maycomb County. So we're going to see a little bit of a Southern Gothic setting here. So let's just read that as well. Maycomb was an old town. It was a tired old town when I first knew it. In rainy weather, the streets turned to red slop. Grass grew on the sidewalks. The courthouse sagged in the square. Somehow it was hotter then. A black dog suffered on a summer's day. Bony mules hitched to hoover carts flicked flies in the sweltering shade of the live oaks on the square. Men's stiff collars wilted by 9 in the morning. Ladies bathed before noon after their 3 o'clock naps, and by nightfall were like soft tea cakes with frostings of sweat and sweet talcum. So notice the red slop. So the mud turning red in the streets when it rains, it's like blood dripping. The town is tired. The courthouse sagged. It's like falling down almost. Grass grew on the sidewalks. Things are decaying. There's decay going on here. A black dog suffered. Notice it's a black dog. That right away brings up the idea of racism. A black dog, someone who is treated lower, like an animal. And what is this black dog doing? It's talking about suffering, pain. People moved slowly then. They ambled across the square, shuffled in and out of the stores around it, took their time about everything. The day was 24 hours long, but seemed longer. There was no hurry, for there was nowhere to go, nothing to buy, and no money to buy it with. Nothing to see outside the boundaries of Maycomb County, but it was a time of vague optimism for some of the people. Maycomb County had recently been told that it had nothing to fear but fear itself. Why are the people moving so slowly? What's going on in the town? Why is there no money to buy anything? Well, they're during the Great Depression here. So it is the 1930s. The stock market had collapsed. And it caused a global depression. There was other issues going on in the U.S. that were connected to the depression, like the Dust Bowl period and problems with farming and lack of rain, especially in California and out west. So farmers were not able to get food to feed people. There were lots of dust storms, and people died of tuberculosis because they were breathing in lots of dust. Okay. So the context socially and economically here, we get a bit of the social economic context. All right, try to make it through this little section here. We lived on the main residential street in town, Atticus, Jem, and I, plus Calpurnia, our cook. Jem and I found our father satisfactory. He played with us, read to us, and treated us with courteous detachment. Calpurnia was something else again. She was all angles and bones. She was nearsighted. She squinted. Her hand was wide as a bed slat and twice as hard. She was always ordering me out of the kitchen, asking me why I couldn't behave as well as Jem when she knew he was older, and calling me home when I wasn't ready to come. Our battles were epic and one-sided. Calpurnia always won, mainly because Atticus always took her side. She had been with us ever since Jem was born, and I had felt her tyrannical presence as long as I could remember. So here we're introduced to Calpurnia, the black maid. Okay, so she's working in their house. She takes care of the kids in the house while Atticus is at work. Why? Where's their mother? Well, the mother died when Scout was 2. So our mother died when I was 2, so I never felt her absence. She was a gram from Montgomery. Atticus met her when he was first elected to the state legislature. He was middle-aged then. She was 15 years his junior, so he married a lot younger woman. Jem was the product of their first year of marriage, so that means Jem was their child. Again, comic understatement and ironic vocabulary being used. Jem was the product. Obviously, 9-year-old children don't speak like this. That's adult Scout talking through her childhood eyes and mouth. 4 years later, I was born, and 2 years later, our mother died from a sudden heart attack. They said it ran in her family. I did not miss her, but I think Jem did. He remembered her clearly, and sometimes in the middle of a game, he would sigh at length and go off and play by himself behind the car house. When he was like that, I knew better than to bother him. When I was almost 6 and Jem was nearly 10, our summertime boundaries within calling distance of Calpurnia were Miss Henry Lafayette Dubos's house 2 doors to the north of us, and the Radley place 3 doors to the south. We were never tempted to break them. The Radley place was inhabited by an unknown entity. The mere description of whom was enough to make us behave for days on end. Miss Dubose was just plain hell. Okay? Now we have the introduction of the Radley House. So here's our haunted house of the Gothic genre. We need a haunted house. And of course, for the house to be haunted, you need a ghost. You need a monster to be in the Gothic. So that was inhabited by an unknown entity. A strange creature, an unknown spirit or ghost or entity. Well, who's that going to be? Obviously, boo, Radley. What do ghosts say? They say boo. Okay, so now we get our Gothic monster and a bit more of the Gothic setting, which you'll see as the Radley place is described later. Okay, that's enough for now for this video. You've seen issues coming up with the law, with Atticus keeping the law strictly, with a Gothic setting, description of the town, the economic, social context. There's going to be tension about race and racism, perhaps violence, death, brokenness, twistedness, all elements of Gothic. All right. See you in the next video.